to today's masterclass on live production electronic music. We're excited to have you here, of course. We begin with SAYTEK and his masterclass live production and performance. The UK artist is known for his fully improvised analog live sets, raw, powerful, and 100% live. SAYTEK has released over 500 tracks on respected labels like KMS, Code QR, Awesome Soundwave, and more. He has also been repeatedly voted among the top 10 international live acts by Face magazine, Faceback. In the second part, we welcome UNMARKED, that is Mark Mäsiar, I hope I pronounced it correctly, who is filling in at short notice for Simon Agreiter. Thank you. Mark is a graduate of SAE Vienna, holding a bachelor's degree in audio production and 2 prior diplomas in audio engineering. He will talk about music production and play, demonstrate and discuss his own productions. SAE Vienna is considered one of the leading institutions for audio engineering and music production. Enjoy, and don't hesitate to ask questions, of course. Thank you. I hand over to SAYTEK now.
Thank you. Hello everyone, hope you're doing good. So who here makes electronic music?
Okay.
Who here has tried to perform electronic music live? Ah, so quite a few of you actually, that's really cool. So I'm going to talk about, how I arrived at my setup, what my setup is, and why it is the way it is. I've been doing this for over 20 years, so, I've tried lots of different ways of doing it, but this is how I'm doing it now. And it's probably not the standard way of doing it. A lot of the gear that I use isn't, the kind of fashionable gear, the gear that you'll see a lot of artists using. And I've got a very certain way that I like things to, work for me. Can you see my setup on the screen now?
Nobody else?
Not yet, okay. So let's wait for that, because I'm going to start talking through everything. Let me know, yeah? Does anyone recognise any of the equipment there?
Yes.
Okay, cool, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to start. If my cable is long enough, I may have to stretch over here a little bit. So I'm going to start with the MC707. Now that, I grew up, I'm showing my age now, but I was making music back in the 90s, and I started on groove boxes back then. And the beauty of groove box is that that is it's like a 90s studio in a box. You've got you've got drum machines, it's a sampler as well, a synthesizer, and so you can make basically whole tracks ish on it. You've got 8 channels, so some of my best releases have come mainly off that machine itself. But the thing that really makes it good for performing live is the fact you've got faders on every channel, and you've got 3 knobs on every channel, and you've got a kind of, the way you can arrange things, you've got a clip, a bit like Ableton inside it, so you can kind of arrange live using clips and scenes and stuff like that. So that makes it kind of perfect for performing live. To be honest, when you're making music in it, it's very, 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 very menu divey. So the synth in there is very powerful, but it's also very complicated, and you can spend ages doing sound design. But when you're actually performing with it, it's very, very hands-on, and that's what makes it so good for me. Next up is my most recent purchase is a Korg multi-poly. Now that is just it's a super powerful synth. It's 4 parts multi-timbral, and it's analog modelling, and it's got kind of the analog modelling in it is very, very good, because it's got lots of different cards which model different filters and stuff like that. So you've got profit filter modelling and stuff like that. The way you've got 4 oscillators per layer, and you've got 4 layers, and you've got 5 LFOs per layer as well. So in terms of sound design, is really, really powerful. You've also, you've got different waveforms. So you've got your classic analog waveforms in there, and then you've got like a wave table, and then you've got like a wave morphing thing as well. And you can layer as many of them as you want as possible. So the power of you can run four separate channels off it. So you can, it's 4-pass multi-timbral, but you can also layer those parts up. So if you want super thick sounds, you can do it that way as well. But once again, it's really hands-on. Once you've got on the front panel, you've got four mod knobs which you can assign as many different parameters as you want to those knobs. So you can have like one knob like doing a lot of stuff. You've also got a chaos, like a little chaos pad on it as well. That's fully assignable as well. And it's got this thing called chaos physics, which means that you can hit the chaos pad and it'll move however you want after you hit it as well. So once again, really good for live performance. I use that really for like doing, like if I'm doing if I've got the chaos pad set to the release and the delay, and then I take it off, then it can just like move around a little bit and take that off slowly. And so that's really, really good for live performance. So as you can see, like I like somewhere where I can get really, really geeky with sound design when I'm kind of designing my patterns and stuff like that. And then, but at the same time, they're absolutely amazing for, performing live with. Next up is the Chaos Replay. Now that is, basically it's the newest Chaos pad. I don't know if anyone's ever used a Chaos pad before. So that does like all my transition effects, my live, I suppose the technical term for them is swooshes and sweeps, that kind of stuff when you're performing live. And you can do 2 parameters with 1 finger. So you could do like when you're doing your build up or whatever, you could be doing a white noise or a synth effect or something like that. It's also got really cool delays on it. So that is, that kind of, if you're making tracks, you're adding your risers and your effects and stuff like that. That's how I do that live, basically. Next thing is the Roland SH4D. Again, it's not analog. He said that was analog. Like most of my stuff now isn't analog anymore. It's actually digital. Don't get me wrong, I love analog stuff, but I used to use Electron, the analog rhythm, the analog 4 and stuff like that, but I just find today that analog modelling is so good that, people, it's not a real 303, but if you put them in a blind test and they were listening, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And the thing about the digital stuff, it's just got so much more power to it, and my setup looks quite big, but actually, the amount of power per size of bit of kit is really, really important to me. If I was going to be taking this kind of power out of, actual analog vintage synths, it would be like 3 rooms full of synths. It would be insane. So this again, four parts multi-timbral. It's got a rhythm part on it as well. Really, really good for sound design. It's also, you've got 1 knob per function for all your main sound design features. So for sound design, live sound design is really, really good, and it's got a lot of the, classic kind of Roland synths in it. It's got multiple synth engines as well. So you've got your SH101 engine, you've got a Juno engine in there, you've got a chord engine, which is like really, really cool for like your techno stabs and your techno chords. And you've got a few other kind of, wavetable engines, some more weird kind of engines where you can draw waveforms and stuff like that. Ring modulator engines, all kind of different synth engines, so you can make a massive wide range of stuff like tones and voices on there. It's also got its own sequencer. Next up is Ableton. I'm sure most of you have used Ableton. Yeah? So Ableton, so the way that I use Ableton, I use it like, I used to use a sampler in the 90s, so, but a lot more powerful and a lot more live. So when I'm, making up drum, I don't use stems at all. Everything in there is like, either a 1-bar loop, 2-bar loop. When I'm making so what I'll do is I'll open up another Ableton project, and when you start a track, right? And you put down your kick drum, your hi-hat, your bass line, and that's as far as I go. I just basically bounce all them out as loops, as individual parts, and then put them into my main live project. And then I can trigger them in my main live project. So next up is my Donna Essential B1. Now, having all this digital stuff, I kind of really yearn to have something, at least something analog. And I like the sound of acid. And acid comes from a lot of different places in my setup, but I really kind of missed like that more traditional kind of 303 way of sequencing and programming. So that's where I got the Donna. It's super cheap. It's like €100 or something like that. But it really does sound like a 303, and it's great for like just jamming and programming acid stuff on. So that was basically an overview of everything in my system, and the reason that that I like it is at the moment I've got we were talking about this in the car actually. I've got 12 channels of synths that can run live at the same time. So whereas before I was using a lot of soft synths and bouncing them down, now all the synths that I'm running in my live performance are all running live from the hardware, and that's a really, really powerful thing for me. I also run, I don't know if anyone knows the D16 plugin. So I've got basically the D16, 808, 909 and 303 emulator running from my Ableton, basically. And the way that I put music together is quite freeform. People quite often they're asking me, oh, so do all your drums come from the MC707? Or does your acid all come from the Donna? Or what comes from what? I really don't work like that. I make music. Basically my production process is I'll just go into a studio and I'll just come up with lots of different ideas. That's the first part of the process. And so sometimes something that starts off as a bass line will end up as a synth line and vice versa. I'm just really opening my mind up to be as creative as possible. So that's the first part of my process, is just coming up with lots of different ideas on as many machines as possible. And it's a mess. At that point, it's a complete mess. I wouldn't be able to perform it live. And I think one thing that you have to do as a live act is be super organised. Me, naturally, I'm the most disorganised person on earth. Organisation is not my forte, but to do this, I have to force myself to name scenes in Ableton, name everything, know where everything is so I can perform it live. So that's kind of the second part of the process of making a live set. First part, really, really fun, love it. Creating lots of patterns, in the zone. Second part, pretty horrible, but it's a necessary evil, to go through everything, name it. Yeah, not my funnest days in the studio, but after that, you can jam. The third part becomes really creative again, because you can start jamming with all those parts. And that's when you realise that bass line you made over there goes really well with that kick drum you made over there. And it's kind of, I've never DJ'd. I surprise people, because, I've never DJ'd, I've always performed live. But that's the way that I see it. Is at that point, that is when I'm kind of most like a DJ, because I'm going through the little bits of ideas that I've got and finding out what gels with the other bits and knowing what gels with the other bits. So if I know that bass line goes with that synth, or that bass line works really well with that kick drum, then when I'm jamming live, I kind of know where I'm at with it, And I think, he said I'm 100% improvised. What I do is not 100% improvised. I make a lot of patterns up, I make a lot of ideas up, and I know what works with what, so that's not really improvised, but I do improvise a lot as well. So there's quite often, times when I do things for the first time when I'm performing in front of a crowd, and I'm trying things out for the first time when I'm performing in front of the crowd. And when it really works, I'll do it again. And when it doesn't really work, I just move on, you know, as you do. But yeah, so that's basically, you know, a run through of my gear. I also want to talk a little bit, before I go into actually showing you some music and stuff, I want to talk a little bit about routing. Because this is a thing that I get a lot from people. It's like, how does everything, you know, plug together? And I am very much of the, you know, the mentality, old school is best, right? MIDI cables, audio cables. You know, I see, you know, I think I saw, it was Luke Slater and, I can't remember who else, but they were doing a back-to-back at a big festival. And they were DJing, but they had lots of hardware. And they had everything synced up via USB. And everything was going wrong. You know, you saw them unplugging USB cables, plugging them back in, you know, and I just thought, guys, like what you need is MIDI cables here, right? Because they've been here since the 80s, and they do what they're supposed to do. You know, USB is not supposed to do MIDI, and people are trying, they're performing live, they've got a crappy USB hub, they're trying to run audio through it, all their MIDI through it, and then they're wondering why, you know, things are going wrong. So I have one USB for my audio interface, which has MIDI, and one USB for my controller, and that's it. Everything else is synced up via MIDI cables. You know, I daisy chain MIDI cables going from one thing to another. None of my audio out of my synths go through Ableton. It all goes directly into the V10 mixer. Yeah? That way, everything is super stable. And as a live act, stability is so important, you know? If one bit of gear lets me down, then it's gone, you know? And don't get me wrong, I've been in situations where my laptop's crashed when I've been playing for 1,000 people and I've had to reboot it. It happens rarely, you know, a bit of hardware's broken down. But it should be a very rare occurrence that you don't have to deal with very often. And if you're going to start running lots of USB cables and USB hubs and stuff like that live on stage, that's going to let you down. The other thing that's really going to let you down are third-party plugins in Ableton. If you use Ableton with no plugins, it will never crash. It will never crash. And there's some plugins which you know are super stable as well. But I'm sure you've all, you know, used plugins in Ableton and they've crashed your Ableton, right? Or your CPU is going through the roof because of one plugin. So Ableton does really, really well with its own instruments, its own, it does really well with audio. I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of samples in one project there. Hours of live music in there as little loops. It loads it really quickly, it handles it really well. If I was going to start putting a lot of plugins in there, then that's when I'm starting to take risks. So I'm not saying don't use plugins, but be careful about the ones you do use and know that they're stable and try and keep it to a minimum as well. Okay, so let's start talking about how the gear sounds and kind of, you know, what I use it for. So, I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums off here. Well, I do actually, but I won't. So this is my controller. So I didn't talk about my controller actually. I should have spoken about this. They're called Intech Studios, and they're a startup company in Hungary, and they make these controllers called grid controllers, and they all stick together with magnets. So you buy each individual module and you stick them together. That means you can actually, basically build your own controller. So you don't need, because I'm constantly looking at MIDI controllers, I'm thinking that's good, but it needs a little bit of that and it needs a little bit of that. This one was perfect. I've got like a row of 8x8 knobs and 2 8x8 buttons. That's perfect for my live set. And you can get faders, you can get bigger knobs as well, and you just put them together as you need them, basically. And it's also, they're super powerful as well for if you want to you know, go in there and do some like really geeky programming with your MIDI stuff as well, because they're so programmable. You could do so much with them, much more than any other controller I've seen actually. So check them out if you're looking at the Intech Studios, they're called. Okay, so right, let's start with, I'm not sure what I'm going to start with. Let's start with something here. Okay, so these drums, for example, are coming off Ableton, which I've got the right thing going on here. And by the way, my MC707 is my master clock. Everything is clocked to my MC707. So when I press start on that, everything should start, in theory. So we got that, we got that. Ah. What's he done? Can you hear that? So that's basically a kick drum coming from Ableton there. And a few other things coming from Ableton. So a few layers of things. A little bit of percussion coming from Ableton. And then I've got a chord coming from the multi-poly here. Just a simple chord. And I've got reverb on there, a little bit of delay on there, my filter cut off, a resonance there, and that's all assignable. So and then I have for that as well, I have some. So in this case, my kick drum's coming from Ableton. I've got some other drums on my MC707. I'm going to select that scene there that I can fade in over here. I need to turn my monitor up a bit. I can hear it now. I'm going to get some feedback in a minute though. So I've got these layers going on, and I've got my filter on my mixer here, and I've got my and then I've got some other layers of synths on the 707. So I've got all that stuff going on, and then I can maybe transition to another track. Sorry, my mic cable's a little bit short, so I'm having to start adding bass in from Ableton as well. And then some chords again from the SH 4D. Maybe some weird get some drums coming from the D16. And then take the bass out of Ableton like a DJ would. And start bringing your kick drum in from the 707. Some groove from the 707. Fade this chord out. So at the moment that's all the MC707 playing, and then I've got some samples that this was actually a Stacey Pullen interview, and he's talking about Detroit techno, so I sampled it and chopped it up a little bit. And then, like using the 707, you can like mute stuff, introduce new clips. And then I can bring a pad sequence from do a little live build up with the clips in the MC707. And then I've got a little acid line that I've programmed with the D16 acid with the cut off resonance here, with a delay and a reverb on these two knobs here. And then bring a kick in from Ableton. So you can see it's it's really kind of fluid the way that I can move through different synths and different patterns of stuff coming from different places, and it gives me a lot of control. So there's a kind of there's a set way that I can run through my whole set basically. If I want to, I can go from A to B to C, but also at any point I can go off that as well. I can start mixing parts from different parts together and stuff like that. And that's when it becomes really, really good fun as well. Especially at like 7 o'clock in the morning, You've got a crowd of people and they're like really vibing and you can take it really deep. And because everything is kind of arranged live as well, you can have, like, I always say you'll always recognise my tracks, because the tracks that I release now are just, I'll do an hour live set and I'll chop the tracks out of that and release those tracks straight out of the back of the DJ mixer. But those tracks, you'll be able to recognise them, but they'll sound different every time, and you can have a very different energy performing the same track. So if I want to go deeper, like I said, if it's 7 AM, maybe I don't want as many breakdowns. I want to keep it like on a level, keep people in the zone, vibing, Whereas if it's more like a peak time slot at a festival or whatever, I can use the same music, but have bigger breakdowns, bigger drops, and more vibes like that. So it gives me that real kind of power to, and and all those kind of, all the normal kind of rules that you have of dance music, like, your 4 bars, your 8 bars, your 16 bars, that's all out the window. I'm dropping a kick drum whenever the hell I want to drop a kick drum. I'm looking at the crowd, I'm thinking, do you want it? Do you want it? Do you want it now? Yeah, you look like you want it now. Maybe I'll give you a little bit longer, and then I'll drop it. So it's very much like a feedback between me and the crowd, and it's live performance, and that's why like I said, these tracks I edit out. Some DJs love them, but other DJs they can't deal with them because they're used to having that kind of very music which is everything happens on the 16 bar, every 16 bars or whatever. But the DJs that like that like stuff that kind of keeps them on their toes, they'll play it, and I, when I'm in a club and I'm listening to a DJ and I'm like, all the sounds in this music are amazing, but the way it's arranged is very generic, and that's kind of why I do things the way I do. And also I think I would, if I was in front of a crowd and I couldn't do anything about it, I think I'd just feel frustrated. So I want to be able to, I want there to be a feedback loop between me and the crowd, basically. So this is basically the basis of how I perform live. And like I said, it's over the years it's developed a lot. I always. There's a lot of live acts at the moment that are doing doorless. There's also a lot of live acts that only use Ableton as well. And I, right from the beginning, I started doing live in like 2003. So right from the beginning, it was always about combining Ableton and hardware, because I think the beauty of Ableton is the absolute power of Ableton. You can do anything in Ableton. And I think the beauty of hardware is its limitations. It forces you to work in a certain way. If you're working on each bit of gear, is quirky. It doesn't work exactly how it should. It's got its quirks, and it's got its certain sound, and it makes you work in a certain way. And I think that's the beauty of using hardware, and that's really what makes electronic music what it is. Because when people were going, in Chicago when house music was born, they were buying basically cheap failed synths that they could get second hand because they were cheap. The 303 was designed to be a bass accompaniment for a guitar player, and it flopped. Same as the drum machines. People wanted real drums. So this doesn't sound like a real drum. But then, people in Chicago picked up that stuff and they started jamming with it. And it's the quirks and the limitations that made this music what it is. So I think that's a lot of the reason why people do want hardware. And funnily enough, a lot of the hardware that comes down around today is even more kind of limited than a lot of the stuff in the 90s. Some of the Electron stuff, the Digitac, for example, the first one had a tiny sample memory, and you can only have mono samples in it, and but that kind of is the beauty of hardware. So and like I said, it's, for me, I think it's really, I think nowadays more than ever, more than even in the 90s, there's so much pressure. And there's so much hard marketing from these synth companies. There's something, what they call it GAS, don't they? Gear acquisition syndrome, where you just want to buy the next bit of equipment, or you want to buy the next bit of gear, and there's so much out there, and I think people feel so pressured to buy equipment, and they think that will make their music better. But I think start simple. Start small, start with what you love. Once you know a bit of equipment like the back of your hand, then you can buy something else and add to it. The amount of people that I know that have gone out there and spent thousands on a studio and they don't know how to use any of it. And it's just like, they're overwhelmed and they're confused. So I think, seeing someone like me with all this gear can be appealing. But I think if you're just starting out and you're just really just getting into it, then I think you know, start with less. Less is more, I think. So yeah, I just want to throw the floor open now for some questions, I think.
So did I get that right, that you change recordings of your set and edit those, and those are the songs you release?
Exactly, yeah.
So are there ever any studio versions of your songs?
The only time I really do studio, I don't get me wrong, for years and years and years I used to do it the traditional way, and then I tried to take tracks I perform live and I tried to recreate them in the studio. And I just lost a lot of the energy. And I think the problem when you're in the studio is you think you can perfect music, so you go over that arrangement over and over again, trying to perfect that little detail. When you're performing live, you can't do that. You've got one shot to do it. Yeah, so you learn to live with your imperfections, and you learn to actually enjoy your imperfections. And some of the earliest live stuff I was putting out, like it had like pops and clicks and all, do you know what I mean? It still does a little bit, you know, it's not perfect. You know, hi-hats come in halfway through the hi-hat, or a kick drum, I miss the attack of the kick drum when I bring it in. But, you know, I was putting out that music and suddenly, like all the biggest DJs in the world were playing my music. And I was like, why? You know, and that really helped me to learn to live with my own, you know, imperfections, you know, because I think people feel it. They feel the life, and I think all my favourite music is not perfect. You know, I love the dub stuff from the 70s, I love the early techno. You know, you listen to some of Jeff Mills stuff, it's so distorted, you know, there's no separation in the mix, he's got loads of stuff distorted going on, and it sounds absolutely lovely. But wrong, but lovely, you know. Any more?
I just wanted to ask you, because I really like the way you mix all the synths together.
Yeah.
With the what is your principle? Because, you know, it doesn't sound very melodically oversaturated. What is your principle in mixing?
So you're saying it doesn't sound melodically what?
I just say, like, it's just really nicely mixed. What is your advice?
So I think, I mean, trust your ears more than anything. I think, you know, nowadays we've got so much, especially when we're doing stuff in the box, we've got so much we can look at and guide us. I think the rule is, if it sounds good, it is good, you know, and it's that simple. And I think also, don't spend too much time thinking about it, because we all overthink our music. You know, back in the day, there was many times when I send a label, like a remix or a track, and they'd be like, I love it, and I'll be like, okay, let me just do a mix down, and I'll spend 3 weeks destroying it and making it 10 times worse, because I would overthink it, I would rip it to pieces, and then I'll send it back, and they're like, it doesn't sound as good anymore, you know. So I think I think we have to trust. What's that? I don't know the exact pronunciation of the word, but it's called Frisian or something like that. It's that feeling we get off music when our hairs stick up. When you're in the studio and you make something and you're buzzing off what you make, that's what you need to trust. Not the thought that comes afterwards and goes, is that any good? Maybe that's shit. I need to do something else. And then you spend 3 days making it worse. It's about trusting that initial feeling. And the other thing that I think is really important to remember is there's no such thing in the world as perfection. It doesn't exist on earth. And I used to be a massive perfectionist, and if you're a perfectionist, that's not a good thing, you know. So people think it's good to be a perfectionist, but actually you have to be as good as you can be, and you can't be any better than that. Once you learn that it's as good as you can be, and you stop trying to perfect something and learn to live with the imperfections, and you start moving on and making music, I think. And I think that goes for not just mixing and stuff like that, but everything about music, you know? Any more questions? I'm sure we got some.
So you don't have like a mastering chains, or did you have, because I saw like streaming that was in a tutorial, it was talking about loudness, you know, and maybe if you have last year, you know, drum machine, 2 synths, maybe, yeah.
So I do so the good thing about the V10 mixer, the mixer that I use, is that it's got compression on every channel. So that's really good for my synths. All my synths are compressed with the V10 mixer. The inside Ableton, yeah, I've got a mastering chain. It's quite a simple one. I use a multi-band compressor, some EQ and a limiter, and that's it. You know, so that does it. You know, and that just kind of glues everything together, and it makes everything kind of work. And this is probably going to go against everything you've been taught as well. I saturate all the channels in Ableton as well, because you've got floating points in Ableton, so you can't clip the channel. You can easily clip the master in Ableton, that's not a problem at all. But the channels, you've got floating points, so I saturate the channels to hell, basically. I've got the SAE guys looking at me going, nah. But it means that, because it's really hard to mix in Ableton when you're doing live, because you can't mix on the faders, you have to mix using the clip volumes, basically. If you saturate all the channels, and you have the main volume like lower, and all the channels saturated, you get a really nice kind of everything. It's much easier to mix it together as well, so that's something I do. Again, you're probably told not to do it, but it works for me, and I do it. So yeah, so that's another thing, you know. More questions? Yeah.
So the way your setup is built together, would it be possible that your laptop would crash and you could still continue with the synths?
Yes. Well, actually, the SH4D, yes. The MC707, yes. The multi-poly is actually sequenced from Ableton, so not that. But I could, and I have done, and I could jam for quite a while on just these two boxes and the Chaos Pad and the Donna as well, you know, because they're all synced up via MIDI from the MC707 as well, so they're daisy chained. So then all that needs to happen is I need to jam on them for a while, restart the computer, and then when it comes to the point of restarting, maybe trigger a sample, stop, and then press start again, and everything should come together in sync like that, you know?
Is there anything you can say about getting the order in the session view? Like, how do you order stuff in Ableton?
So yeah, okay, so I think I name a lot of my scenes, and that helps me do it. And I think, yeah, so my sets can, like I said before, they can run linearly in Ableton, so I can run from top to bottom. And so I do a lot of arrangement via scenes, which is a very, very simple way of arranging. And I've got one button that goes up and one that goes down and one that hits play. So I can go through my scenes like that and just trigger scenes as I want. And then I've got the scenes all named. So and most people probably wouldn't understand it, but for me it makes sense. It's like a cue. And I also suggest to some people as well, you can use colours on the scenes as well, colours on the clips as well, just to, like I was saying at the beginning, to get super organised, because otherwise it's very, very easy to get lost inside Ableton and you know, not really know where you are. So just having that kind of familiarity, a little bit of naming, a little bit of colouring, that kind of stuff allows you to know where you are. And then when you know where you are, you can do like a whole arrangement in scenes if you want. So you can have like a scene which is like a breakdown, or like 4 scenes which are a breakdown that you can trigger in order, and then you have your drop, which is a scene. But as well as scenes, I also trigger lots of individual clips as well. So I'm triggering scenes and individual clips at the same time, and between doing that gives me a lot of power. It gives me a lot of power to arrange stuff live in Ableton, but I can be, you know, if I was triggering every individual clip live in Ableton, that means I wouldn't have any time to be on the hardware. So that kind of gives me the power to arrange stuff live in Ableton, but also enough time to be jamming on the hardware as well. So it keeps things simple. But yeah, organisation is the key. Yeah, having a system where you can look at it and you know where you are. That really is the key with Ableton, because it's so, you know, you can have I think you can have infinite scenes. You know, I've got thousands of scenes in there. If I didn't know where I was, then I'd be in big trouble. You know, I wouldn't know anything. I think just giving stuff a name, even though it doesn't really make sense to most people, for me, seeing those names, I know where I am in the set, because I know that name mixed with those coloured clips means that I'm on that track, if that makes sense. But you can take the organisation to a really, you know, the next level as well. You know, I'm, like I said, naturally I'm not an organised person, but you can, you know, you can name all your channels, you can colour code all your clips, you can colour code your scenes, you can name your scenes. So if you're, you know, that super organised person, you can have it so it's like a, you know, it's like a magical spreadsheet in front of you that you just know exactly where you are at any time. So, yeah, I have to fight against my disorganisation to do it, you know.
Right.
So with those menu diving synths, do you ever do any sound design while playing, or is everything like preset
So
from the studio?
on the MC707, not much. Like, I've got a couple of knobs which are like filter or a modulation. But on the SH4D and the Korg Multipoly, and before the Korg Multipoly I was using a Novation Peak, they're beautiful for live sound design because you've got a knob per function for your sound design. So you can be basically creating, you know, going from one sound and taking it somewhere completely else, somewhere completely different live. So they're the ones that I do the live sound design on. But the MC707 is very much like, it's a groove box. Like, you've got a nice bass line, you've got a nice synth line, you can tweak the filter on it, you can set another mod knob to do something else. You can send it to the reverb or delay, but that's all you're doing live. But on the, on those two bits of kit, like, you can really go crazy with the sound design and take it to a whole new level live and really go on a little bit of a journey with it, you know?
Can you show more of the Korg synth?
The Korg, yeah, okay. So, well, yeah, let me get something. I'll get something towards the end because it's quite new, so there's only recently have I started using it. I've probably had it, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months or something, not long. Let me find this. Okay, so this one is MC7 Multipoly. Okay, so right here, let me get my MC707 row up. So here, all the drums here are coming off the MC707. So that's all MC707. And then So that synth is coming off the multi-poly there, and I've got chords. And then the only thing that's coming off Ableton is like vocal samples. So when you put it all together, and some percussion as well. So when I put that together, you got. And I've got some pads as well coming from. So at a very basic level, I've got filters and I've got the release of those chords. On the Chaos pad, But if I wanted to start really like messing around with stuff, I've got all these different parameters here. Make sure I'm on the right layer first. So on this chord layer, so I could change my filter type. Change my delay settings here. Change my envelope, filter envelope, amp envelope. Pit. What's that?
Can you turn it up for us a little bit more?
Take it, you know, in some quite wonky directions and stuff like that. We try and get something else on there as well. Something that's a little bit easier to... Oh yeah, let me show you some, because I'm a little bit more familiar with the SH 4D in terms of live sound design. So let's get something here. So we are.
Imperfection.
etc. You should go quite crazy with it once you're in the zone, you know. You've got a crowd of people and stuff, you can and take it on a weird and wonky journey with that one. So I think I am, where's my microphone? I think that's my time up. I think I may have gone a little bit over, I'm not sure. Good?
Shall I?
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope that was fun. It was fun for me. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Mark. My artist name is Unmarked. I'm here as a substitute today for Simon. Unfortunately he couldn't come because he's sick. So I'm taking his spot. And I will be taking you for half an hour more into the studio world rather than the live world. I have prepared a track for you here, which I have done for my bachelor project. It's a synthwave pop track, and I want to showcase to you, at least in my opinion, how important contrast in electronic music is. Also for the listener to know, to get that feel, okay, we switch to a different part. Now's the time to slow down or to fasten up, you know? So I'm going to play you half a minute from the track and show you the contrasting parts. I mean, just check the volume. Volume okay? Up, up, up.
So just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some. Just give me some.
All right. So that's the start of the track. Now let me break it down.
How you doing, man?
So I had this mix solo. So right. So we start off with chord progression and then a pad when the drops come in. I want to show you especially the chord progression. So how I produced this whole song is that I recorded every instrument on the MIDI keyboard in my studio and recorded the performance into Pro Tools. So I rarely quantized anything, so I tried to make it as human as possible to retain my own groove. And with the chord progression, I'm making contrast with filtering automation, especially with the Volcano 3 plugin. And now on the screen you should see the plugin, and you will see how it starts to move when the drop comes in. So starting out low, around 750 Hertz, not compromising the high mids and the highs just yet. And then it rises up. here comes in the vocal and the pad. Yeah, we need emojis. Alright. So the pad comes in. It's basically just these two instruments carrying the melody line until the chorus comes, more vocals come in, and I close it again. So let me just leave that up here for you. When we come back into the chorus, it goes down again to make some more contrast. And you may not notice that in context, but you feel it. So now I'll show you in context. Also, just one more thing, another contrasting point, filtered drums, and then the non-filtered drums come in.
Now why'd you let me know how you will let me go? Will this be my death row? Please God forgive me now. You got away from me, you got away too fast. You got my heart too big, so just give me some of you. Just give me some, just give me some of you.
Oh yeah, the CPU. Give me some CPU. Okay. When the chorus drops, the chords close down and a pad comes in. So let's listen to that pad. It's just a simple fuyara doing a vibrato and acting as a pulsing pad in the production. Fun fact, fuyara is a flute coming from Slovakia. Because I'm from Slovakia, and I wanted to incorporate this national instrument in the production. Now, how many of you are, do you know the term call and response?
What's that?
Call and response. Yeah? Okay. So I exactly make use of that technique in the chorus, in the vocal track. As you can see, there is the main vocal going only like this.
Just give me some of you. Just give me some of you.
And on its own would be really boring, but when then the backings come in with it. So the main vocal acts as the calling factor, and the backings come in with the response.
Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some.
And as you can see in the second part of the chorus, I bring in more vocal layers to change the chord progression to make it even fuller, right? So we have one chord in the first part of the chorus made up of all the voices, and then the second part of the chorus, even more voices to make it even a bigger chord and make it have more impact. So in context,
just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some. Just give me some. Just give me some. Just give me some of you. Just give me some.
and there's a CPU. Now, to the arrangement of the whole track, it starts out with an 8-bar pre-chorus, continues with a 16-bar chorus, so exactly what SAYTEK is not doing. So I'm showing you the different part of electronic music production, but in the modern way applied, or in a more mainstream way. And then there's a 16-bar verse, and the structure is pretty simple. After that, it's again the pre-chorus, then the chorus, then the second verse. And to give more impact to the last pre-chorus and the chorus, there is a 1-bar stop time. So it drops better, or it makes bigger impact to use the right words, and then there's an outro. So this was the chorus in the first turn. In the second turn, the chorus gets widened out with a vocoder, some double layers of the main vocal. Where are they? Right here. So you can see a bunch of doubles here supporting the main vocal, and a new ad-lib track comes in. Let's listen to that. My bad, the instrument track is left on. Make it through, only close like you used to. Now why'd you let me know how you let me go? Will this be my death throw? Please God forgive me now. You got away from me, you got away too fast. You got my heart to beat, so just give me some. Well, let me just play you the solo mix so we don't have any CPU issues. Right, so I'm dealing with an ad-lib track with more groove to differentiate, to support the groove better in the second chorus. Then there's verse 2. Whispers when he holds you tight. If my mark inside your mind, I know you could die. So why you running when you know I'm still your alibi? Now why'd you let me know how you let me go? Will this be my death throw? Please God forgive me now. You got away from me, you got away too fast. You got my heart to beat, so just give it to me. Alright, so we have heard that already, and I will just show you the outro very quick, which is basically then the ad-lib track left on its own to keep you in a groove. Right, so that's how the track is looking. I mean, more things to say about the contrasting thing, you know, to differentiate between parts and whatnot. Of course, you gotta incorporate risers and impacts. So, just so you get the picture, from the drop, from the intro into the pre-chorus, and always, There's an impact that sounds like that. Yeah, just making some atmosphere basically. And the drop from the pre-chorus to the chorus consists of 3 risers and 2 impacts. So basically the first one plus another one. Any questions?
How do you go about stacking vocals? Like, do you start with, like, you play the piano, so do you use the piano to get to vocal, to the chords, or how do you go about that?
That's a good question. I do it by intuition. To be fair, I trust my ears and I kind of have an imagination about it in my head first, and I start building up the voices. So I know which key I'm in, so I know what notes I'm working with, and I sing the first layer. So let me just showcase, for example, from the backings. So let's say this was the first voice I went with.
Just give me some.
Yeah, just a simple low one. Of course, I double them into both sides because I want to have a consistent stereo image. And once I have that, I move on to another layer. So then the next layer.
Just give me some.
Then another one.
Just give me some.
And then another one.
Just give me some.
And together, they create the chord.
Just give me some.
Yeah. And in the second part, as I mentioned, I wanted more, so I added, I believe, some higher octaves.
Just give me some.
Right. And this one.
Just give me some.
Yeah. So tenor register and then an octave higher up, which added this texture then.
Just give me some.
Huh? Sorry.
Just give me some.
Right. Yeah, does that answer your question? I mean, you know, you could go about it also just searching on the keyboard, I don't know, choosing some chords and knowing the theory of it all, but that's not my way to do it. I completely respect that way, but I go off the feeling I want to give it, and I basically pursue it till I don't feel what I imagined. Any other questions? Yeah.
How do you came up with the instrumentation? Like, how did you decide which instrument would go well in this track?
So, I started off with the chords, basically. The ones that I have been showing. For me, when I create a track, I choose an instrument and I just go with it. So I work something out and I see where it leads me. I don't put any expectations on the project. It's like not like I want to make this hit now or I want to make this kind of song now. I start grooving, usually with a chord progression or a melody, which I find good or I like it, and then I build up on that. So when I create this chord progression with this particular sound, yeah, it's something from Analog Lab, we can have a closer look. It's presets called Bright Spectral Pad. And then I'm doing the sound design by the automation that I was showcasing to you. And I know if I want this instrument to be a main element in the track, I have to contrast it. It cannot stay the same for the duration of 4.5 minutes almost. That's how long the song is. So to contrast that, I add in different elements. For example, this pad, this art pad. Yeah. Further working the melody. And this still feels like a lead up. So now I have to figure out something to drop it. But rather, as SAYTEK mentioned, sometimes more is less. Rather than putting more instruments in there, I try to take what I have there and repurpose it. So the only thing that comes in is the pulsing pad of the flute. Which in context you can barely hear, but it's there, you can feel it. And then of course the drums come in. So till now we had the filtered drums, right? And then this comes in, all the effects, rises, impacts, and the raw drum. That's how I kind of figured it out. Now, of course, I want to lead for my song, and I wanted to use the flute, the fuyara. So I use a simple one note that plays at the right time, in my opinion. Let's hear that. Just give me some of you. Just give me some of you. That's about it for the lead. So the whole instrumentation is made up of 4 elements, changing out, contrasting each other, one element being filtered in different parts, so creating a different sonic picture. And then of course the drums in the intro filtered, then they come in filtered another time, and other than that, the contrast is then made with silence. Yeah? A lot of musicians a lot of times forget to use silence as an element in their songs, and I like to do that. So when we come into the second part of both verses, to make a better contrast for when the pre-chorus or the chorus drops in, I take out the drums. Some of you, I feel the only way, so I feel so lonely without you. They come in filtered because I want to give you the illusion that something's coming, and there's no drums. Instead, the contrast is made with the double layers and the ad-lib track that comes in to refresh your ears. And then it drops into the chorus where the drums come back in. Yes?
How did you make this pitch down effect before the break?
Oh, that's a really easy one actually. In Pro Tools, of course. You mean this one, right? Tell me we can make it through, only close like you used to. Yeah. So it's called kind of like a tape stop effect. Really, really easy to do. So you see it's only on these 2 tracks that are playing out in the instrumentation. And you do that in Pro Tools by going to Audio Suite, modulation, no, not modulation, pitch shift, I believe, yes. And there's a plugin called Verify. And you can either slow down something or speed it up. You choose the duration on which you want to apply it, basically. And as it slows down, the pitch naturally goes down because there's no stretching applied, right? So as the slowdown effect is applied, the pitch also goes down.
What do you think?
For sure. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So let me showcase to you the other track from the EP. This was co-produced by my mentor, mainly produced by him, co-produced by me. He's a producer from Slovakia, industry producer, worked with many big names, stands behind the biggest hits in Slovakia. And I had a vision for this track. I was exploring a genre I did not try to sing before. And it's kind of a rager trap, you could call it. And I will show you how I achieved the needed contrast in here. Session's gotta load up. Basically what I want to show you with this, when we made the track at the other producer's place, we did not have the pre-chorus worked out. The drop was already worked out with the drum groove, but there was no contrast. None at all, basically, with the pre-chorus. So I will show you how the track looked when we got done there and what I added in order to make that contrast. So this is how the track looked when we got done at his place.
Never ending, every tip leaves a mark, but your soul is always bending. No matter where you stray or how broken you've been.
It's okay, but it was quite boring, right? You did not feel that it dropped somewhere, right? So what I had in my imagination is to make the pre-chorus as big and as wide as possible. We talk wide stereo image, a lot of texture, because the drop in itself is completely narrow and mono, right? So to make the right contrast, I wanted to make it as wide as possible. And now I will show you what I did that. Also, I wanted to create kind of like an earthquake, so I added this sub. Right? And then I had my guitarist friend come over, play some chords for me to give it further more texture. And last but not least, I recorded a choir again. So would you say that you recognized the choir in there? No, right? That's what I want to show you. So basically I repurposed my voice to make it into an electronic sounding instrument, and I'll show you exactly how. So, do we want to go through each layer?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is the auto-tuned, equalized, and a little bit compressed vocal take, the first one. So that's the high octave lead. Then there's a low octave layer. Put to both sides so that the stereo image is consistent. And the middle octave. Right. Together, they sound like this. And of course, there's a space delay which is making them pulse. Without it, sounds like this. Yeah. So no pulse. Pulse back in. And I think you can all hear the big reverb. And so how did I make it so electronic? Let me show you. So first I'm just getting rid of some frequencies I don't want there, and a low cut at 113. Then it's a Pro C2, just doing a sidechain compression to the main vocal so that these elements don't clash in the mix. Then I really love this plugin. This is Doubler 4. I use Doubler 4 or Doubler 2 from Waves. And what I do with this plugin basically is that I get rid of the direct mid signal and I leave only the side signal. Yeah? Because in the middle I have the vocal, I have the sub, I have a bunch of stuff over there. I don't want the mid signal of the core to clash with the other elements in the mix, in the mid, so I leave it only on the sides. Then I do some bus compression with SSL G-Bus. I do some equalization. So I will play it and turn on each plugin so you can hear the difference. The sidechain to the main vocal, ducted immediately. So double 4. Right, now we only have it on the sides. Compression and EQ. And now the funny part comes where we give it some texture. So little Alder boy pitched it down 12 semitones. Also the format is down 12 semitones. Drive up. Then to make it dirty, I use Devil Lock. Distortion unit from Sound Toys. Yeah, there we go. Then I sidechain the core to the instruments as well. So probably there was some clashing in the mix, and I was taking care of that. Yep. And another trick, this is a trick I learned from Jason Joshua, if anybody knows him. He's a really renowned mixing engineer. Basically, I'm using true verb at the end of the chain, but not to give reverb, but only to place it further away in the mix. What I mean by that? So only the direct signal is on, and what I'm doing this is the room size, this knob here, and you can set it how you want. So right here you see it's milliseconds, and with the distance knob you can position where you want the reverb to be in this emulated room in the plugin. So let me show you before and after. Before and after. You might not hear it completely right, but I'll show you the difference in context. Right, so halfway I will put the plugin on. Notice the difference of the positioning in the mix of the core. Did you notice the difference? Yeah?
Yeah, need to come to an end.
Ah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Basically, this is what I wanted to talk about. Contrast. In my opinion, it is really, really important in electronic music production. And yeah, any questions to end this? Alright, well, thank you for your attention. Enjoy the night.